product managers are just going to be asked to do more. Everybody's going to be asked to do more. Product managers are going to be asked to do more. Whenever you take a job, do not optimize for the job you're taking. Optimize for the job you want next.
With AI, a lot of the tasks where product managers have to be like heads down, writing, I think that's a lot of where AI will come in and kind of take on that responsibility.
I really think just the tool set is changing and the toolkit is changing. And so the expectations are changing. And so part of the reason why, honestly, the reason why I built ChatPRD, I think a lot of the bad behavior or suboptimal behavior in product organizations come from risk aversion.
Product managers have to get creative. They have to understand people, know what motivates people. And those are things that I think it's a little bit harder for AI to replace inherently.
Women-led companies only get like less than 2% of venture funding. And I fought for a little slice of that 2%.
Yeah, when I think of low ego or no ego, I think of we always say product managers should never be the ones to say, that's not my job.
So first and foremost, even before I introduce you to all of them, I think everybody has gone through your profile. The first thing I want to say is I'm super, super grateful for taking out this time for everyone. I think the entire PM fraternity, especially from India and places all across the globe, they want to hear you and they've already seen some of your talks. And Alisa is obviously a rock star, right? I've been following her for so long, right? So I think thank you very much for coming in and speaking to the design fraternity at Rethink Systems. This is super, super grateful to you. Yeah.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Cool. So let me just quickly brief the structure of the session. What I'll typically do is for the first 5 minutes, I'll do a small intro of both of you, right? And then whatever questions that are definitely in my journey, and specifically that I want to learn from great operators, I'll try to ask them for the next 30 odd minutes. However, we can take turns. I can initially ask Claire and then Alisa can jump in and I can essentially ask Alisa and you can jump in wherever you feel like, right? For the next 30 to 35, 40 odd minutes, there are a bunch of questions from all walks of life, right? Which all of these people who come from varied experiences, some are product managers, some are senior product managers, some are engineering managers, and from different walks of life, they essentially would want to ask you questions, and we'll try to cover as many as possible. Towards the end of the session, we take like a group photograph, which kind of goes out on LinkedIn, what they learned, and they essentially tag you and try to put across the learnings that they had. And I think the last bit is that we also do stream these sessions on LinkedIn as well as on YouTube, where essentially I try to put across for the larger general community in general, right? Awesome. So even before I start, let me just give you a brief about what Rethink Systems is. Rethink Systems typically is a community where we have tried to make very high quality operators not necessarily in terms of talent, but in terms of intent, right? The goal is that if you have the right resilience, the right kind of attitude in life, you can become whatever kind of operator, high quality operators. And here I'm consciously using the word operator because it can be a great engineering manager, it can be a great product manager, it can be a great sales manager and typically these programs are heavily based on metacognition, on how to think and how do you understand principles from ground up. Right. And that is where I typically call friends of mine. And I've been super, super grateful. They have been super kind to come across. And once again, this is the overall structure through which this community, and this community is now spread across 10 geographies. There are people from India, US, Europe, Canada, Dubai, Australia, and other places. And I think there are some people also joining from abroad. Right. So once again, thank you very much. So Janta, for you, let me just quickly do a brief introduction for both of these talented individuals. I think I would not do justice while speaking about it, but let me try my best to kind of put this across, right? So I think these people don't need any introduction. They are extremely talented product leaders and extremely talented individuals. But let me start with a brief introduction of Claire. Claire is a remarkable product leader whose career is nothing short of inspiring. She is currently the Chief Product Officer at LaunchDarkly, which was last valued at $3 billion, where she leads a talented team across engineering, product, UX and the broader ecosystem. I think LaunchDarkly is a product or a platform which essentially helps teams ship features faster and experiment faster. She's also the founder of ChatPRD, an on-demand chief product officer service that enhances PRDs, right? So that is a product that I think Alisa had given across to me kind of review, and it's an amazing product. You all guys should definitely try it. After the call, I'll essentially share the link with you. You can check out. It helps you make great PRDs, set context, and do things like that, right? Before that, I think she was the product leader she was the chief product officer at Color. Color is a company which focuses on cancer research and groundbreaking healthcare solutions. And before that, one of our favorite products, which we use very commonly as A/B testing in India, it is Optimizely. She was the chief product officer, and before that, she was an SVP of product management, where she was instrumental in defining the product vision and strategy. I think Claire's journey started as a product manager at Electronic Arts and later co-founding Experiment Engine, which essentially got acquired by Optimizely. So she has seen all walks of life, I think 0 to 1 journey, the founder journey, and I think scaling companies to 1 to 10 and 10 to 100. I think all across her remarkable career, she has covered all of that. She is a graduate in American Studies from the University of Texas at Austin, and beyond her corporate achievements, she is a staunch advocate of diversity and inclusion in the tech industry and frequently shares her insight at conferences and through her writing. Thank you very much, Claire, for joining us. Awesome. Now, let me quickly introduce Alisa. Alisa is also a distinguished leader in product management and growth strategy. She's also a friend. She has a YouTube channel called Alisa Works. You should definitely check her out. Both of them recently did a video with Akash, and Akash had come for the previous cohort, but it's super, super enterprising to kind of watch that. Right. She's currently the head of growth at Chatprd, where she focuses on scaling and optimizing growth strategies to drive the company's success. Alisa's career began as an advisory consultant at Deloitte. She then transitioned to the role of a product manager too in Blackline. And post that, she was at Drip, where she was a principal PM. And her next role was as a manager of product management at Adobe, right, where she led critical product initiatives for over 2.5 years. She also holds a bachelor's degree in managerial information systems from the Carlson School of Management at University of Minnesota. She's also known for her strong commitment to data-driven decision-making and user-centered design, regularly sharing her knowledge on her YouTube channel and obviously through LinkedIn, through which we got connected. So once again, thank you very much for joining in. Awesome. So the first thing that I wanted to kind of start off with, and this is a question for Claire and Alisa, both of you, I think, is that definitely PM roles don't have a necessary background that you have to follow, but I think there are specific archetypes of the PM role, and those archetypes in generally are personal traits or behavioral traits, right? And they essentially then catapult into principles of how do you become a very good operator over both of your careers, right? You've seen teams scale from 0 to 1, 1 to 10. What are those tenacious principles that generally good operators have? And again, I'm consciously using the word operator, right? That essentially shape them into a top performers, not necessarily from an IC role, but also from a leadership role. And I would love to hear both of your thoughts. I would definitely want to start from Claire. Here, thank you very much.
Yeah. So I think there are, as you said, there's no background that means that you're going to be a great product manager, product leader, operator in general. I think one of the reasons why I try to share my journey and my story with as many people as possible is I have quite a non-traditional route into the roles that I have. I have a liberal arts degree. I have a liberal arts degree. I taught myself to code. I do not have a computer science degree. I worked in every company possible, a tiny startup. I was a founder. I have worked at larger companies. And really, I think the defining attribute of what allowed me to get into the roles that I'm in is a relentless curiosity and a willingness to learn what I didn't know. I think I was just in my career very unafraid to admit when I didn't know something, and then very unafraid to just do the thing that I needed to do to learn that thing. And I think that makes for great leaders generally, because we all aren't born with an innate knowledge of how to make great software products. We learn it. And I'm still learning things. I'm still growing. And there are still things that I can get better at. So I think truly a growth mindset and a curiosity and a willingness to learn is what allows anybody from any background to get into any role. And then there are these sort of personas or archetypes of types of people that get in particular a product management role that I see pretty generally. There is the sort of growth style person, very data driven, very driven around conversions and pull through, thinks about things as a system and is really numbers driven. You'll also see a lot of these folks come out of larger companies because they have the ability to do A/B testing and experimentation at scale. You can really make those decisions. Then you have what I would say, the two kinds that I typically hire, which are very commercially oriented product managers that really think of their product as a business line and think of the success of their product as the success of the business. And these are more folks that think about, how do I price and package things? How do I market things? How do I bring them to market? They spend a lot of time with sales. And so I think commercially minded product managers often end up in B2B, as well as what I would say the third kind, which is more technical or platform PMs, which come at the product from a technical perspective, really a systems thinker, thinking about how do I build a platform on which I can expand a product offering. Those two in the middle are probably the ones I most like, and most a commercial platform PM. And then there's the user-centric PM that really comes from that design spike, who's really thinking about crafting experiences, building from the user perspective. And that is also a persona that I saw really a lot come up in my experience in healthcare. So, a different style for every season. I think the things that make them successful, no matter what kind of style of product manager you are, again, growth mindset, data literacy, and then what I call like scrappiness and hustle, which is just the ability, very limited resources, to get something done. And so part of creating ChatPRD is to create another resource for resource-constrained product managers to help them get stuff done.
I think, Alisa, I would want to ask the very same question to you also, right? In your own career, what do you think are the defining traits for someone that you look up to and you say, even in the interview, it's that aha moment and you look at the person and you say, this person probably has that attitude to essentially become a very good growth leader? Right. And not just from a metric point of view, but also from a culture point of view, that it would be a very good fit. See that. How do you see that across?
Yeah. I mean, the things that really impress me in interviews and the things that differentiate like good from great are, one, just speed and ambition. Like, there are just people that have the ambition to do more and the ambition to do faster, and it comes across very clearly. And that difference is very clear inside organizations. You can all think of like the one person, maybe you're this person, who's like, oh my gosh, they do 5 times more than anyone else, and they seem to not break a sweat. Like, that really does make a difference. I think the second thing is business acumen, which is they understand the fundamentals of the business. There are so many product people, engineers, et cetera, that understand how to build products and have no idea how things are sold, have no idea the unit economics of their product, no idea where the leverage is in the margin. And so business acumen, my favorite interview question is actually, what do you think about our business model? Because rarely have people that come into my interviews, for whatever reason, thought about the actual business model. They thought a lot about the product, but not a lot of the business model. So that's a good one to get at back business acumen. So there's speed, there's big business acumen. And then there is what I would say, sort of, again, this like scrappiness or low ego, which is my least favorite thing, is PMs that can only like kind of float up here in strategy land. And look, I don't get to float in strategy land, and I have a C-level title. Like, you have to be able to dig in. You have to be able to write PRDs. You have to be able to just like do the work that needs to get done. And folks that can talk about a range of work from very up here to like, you know what, I think just had to get done and I got it done. That sort of low ego makes them very versatile players inside a team. And so those are maybe 3 things that I look for.
So I think that's a very interesting point that you kind of talked about. And I want to expand on that point where you said low ego, right? Low ego or in general empathy, right? So Alisa, I would want to hear it from you probably that how do you even define, these are not very objective terms, that you should be empathetic, you should have less ego. What does it even mean, right? In a real setting, are these the smallest of things that essentially drive a person towards that this person is empathetic or this person has that ability to receive feedback? Is there a cultural paradigm that actually helps people become that way?
Yeah. I mean, when I think of low ego or no ego, I think of like, we always say product managers should never be the ones to say, that's not my job. right? Like we should always be willing to do whatever it takes to make something happen. And that sometimes means like, oh, you need a design. Well, okay, we don't have a designer for that, but I'm going to make it happen. I'll get a design together. Or yeah, like anything, even if it's not in your scope of work traditionally, like that is your job as a product manager, because your job is to make it happen. So I think that's where a lot of the no ego comes in. And I think for like what we were talking about earlier, what makes for a great PM in general, they can understand the problems to be solved, understand their customers like fully, but they also understand, as Claire was saying, like the business and the objectives and what we need to do to make this company successful. And they have all that information, they ingest all of that, have great ideas, and they can make it happen. That means getting people on board, evangelizing the idea, getting scrappy, doing what it takes to just get that feature across the finish line.
That's
Yeah, Alisa, I have to say you took the words out of my brain when the question was asked. I was thinking, you just don't say not my job.
Yeah.
And like, look, there are plenty of things that I get asked to do where I could say like, not my job, and I do them anyway. And so I just think that is the perfect encapsulation of what we mean here.
I think Brandon Chu essentially coined this term, and I read it in an article that he wrote a long time back, which is like whole shippable experiences, where you take it from the problem to essentially taking it to the consumer and actually making a valuable business model out of it. That is something that you end to do. So that's why I keep saying that a PM has to do anything and everything under the umbrella in order to essentially get that value. You're loyal to the problem. But the one thing that I really want to kind of differentiate, and I want to talk both of you, and you can take turns and who essentially want to talk about, is that how does the role actually change from a lens of a PM, then you becoming a senior PM, then you becoming a group PM? How does that structure of thought, and how do you look at general product strategy from that lens? How does that change? And since you've been in all sort of roles, what are the responsibilities that you had to carry when you were a PM and shipping out a feature, and then probably moving to a more leadership role where you had PMs who were essentially driving different verticals in the company?
I think of the quick kind of high level answer, which is accountability ratchets as you get higher in the organization. And the reality is we all sign up for like this fake accountability, which is like, oh, we have our quarterly goals and our OKRs and etc. And what I say to people as the chief product officer of a company, if we don't hit our product and revenue targets relative to our product contributions, I should be fired. Like it is my accountability at the end of the day. And I've never heard anybody in my career, very rarely a PM goes, if I don't hit my OKRs, you should definitely fire me. Like, but that is actually what it takes at the business level. I am a business leader. I'm not a functional leader. I need to hit my objectives. I need to drive the business growth. And ultimately, that accountability rolls to me. And I cannot be considered a successful product leader unless I deliver on those goals. I could build the most beautiful product. Users could say they love us. Team could be happy and efficient. None of that matters if at the end of the day, we're not driving top line and bottom line growth. Like that's just the end of the day. And so your thinking becomes much more about the business, and your accountability becomes much more intense, and you have to adjust that. And so, what I always say is this starts really profoundly at the director level. I don't promote anybody into the director level unless they have had measured, repeatable, and tangible impact on the business, no matter how great the things that they have worked on. And so the director level, that really starts. And then the shape of your work shifts a lot. And so as a product manager, as an IC product manager, you're really in the day-to-day of understanding customer problems, articulating, doing research, and then really rapidly building out things and then validating them in the market. And you're really focused on your inner team. You're focused on your triad. You're focused on the team that you work with. As you go up in the leadership ranks, you become much more cross-functional, and you think much less about any individual product, and you think much more about the business and how to create basically an innovation factory. So I tell everybody that hires me, you do not hire me to ship one or two great products. You hire me to build an engine that can output products on demand over and over and over and over and over again that accrue value to the enterprise. Like that's what you hire me for. So I spend a lot of my time on hiring the right people, attracting the right talent, driving the right intensity and focus in the organizations that they're doing that, using my many decades of experience to short circuit, some of the things that we need to do so we can move faster, and then collaborating really more with my team, which is the executive team, the head of sales, chief marketing officer, chief finance officer, the CEO, our executive customers. That's where I spend my time. I don't spend all my time down in my team. And so I think that sort of perspective shift is pretty apparent as you go into leadership.
I really wanted to ask you this question, and this is really interesting while I'll ponder on this very question, and then I'll come to Alisa. There's this one thing that when I see product managers, and when you are very, very passionate about something, really want to solve problems, there's a benchmark that you set about the work that you do. But once you manage a team, right, that shipping quality might not be the same because you're delegating those tasks across. And there is always this mismatch where, like, a lot of times when I go to my clients and they essentially see me and Shravan is driving this across, there is a certain level of throughput that I consider for myself from a business and a product perspective, but that doesn't necessarily translate in the team. How do you essentially bridge that gap? Because that is something very hurtful to a super passionate or super that kind of a person. How do you bridge that gap, that the system that you've designed also ships the throughput or threshold of quality that you expect yourself as a great operator to do? Yeah.
I'm going to say something pretty controversial, which is I think this tension between speed and quality is a fake thing made up to make people's jobs easier. Like, look, I really do believe doing a crummy job takes just about as much time as doing a good job. If we're all really like writing bad code takes just as much time. I promise I've written lots of bad code as it takes to write good code. But the order in which you do things, the system is so like, I kind of fundamentally disagree with this tension between speed and quality, because if you look at something like ChatPRD, we go incredibly fast. Not everything works, but I would say by and far, Alisa, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think our customers think we've built a high quality, valuable product. And we 100% biased towards speed over perfection. And so I think what you're really hitting on is less about the output of quality versus speed. It's really about the input of craft versus speed. And craftspeople, sorry, they don't really like working for me. Craftspeople really do care about there is a right way to do product discovery. There is a right way to do product design. There is a right way to do product management. There is a right way to do software engineering. And if you are not doing that the right way every time, it feels really like personally upsetting. And what I think you need to know as somebody who actually, I really value craft, and I'm actually quite impressed with people who can come with care and intention around their craft and can do amazing, high quality, high detail work, I would say, versus high detail work versus high quality work. What I would say is you have to calibrate when that's appropriate. Just like I have to calibrate when it's appropriate to just like tell my team to ship something fast. I have to calibrate when appropriate, and folks need to calibrate when appropriate. And so again, it's just like a portfolio of how you operate. Just like I can't operate up here all the time and down here all the time. I have to kind of span in the middle. As a craftsperson, sometimes there's something, or you have the time, or you have the luxury to do the deep thinking, the deep work, the detailed discovery. And sometimes you just need to like make a bet, move on with your life and get it done. And what I would suggest is, if you're feeling that tension, really keep the intellectual honesty about if one way is better than the other. Because at the end of the day, I will tell you, I've shipped a lot of product. I've been in product a long time. The things that I've shipped the fastest with the least thought in many instances have done way better than the things that like I swirled for 3 months on and then spent 9 months building. Like there is not a direct proportionate outcome to your inputs. And I think people really want to believe there is, because product managers want certainty on the success of their products. And it just like, I don't think they're highly correlated. And so what you need to figure out is like, what is appropriate internally, externally with customers, and do what is maximally efficient as opposed to what is textbook right.
Makes sense. That's super cool to hear. And so taking it from there, since you have been shipping products for ChatPRD, I've seen features come in very recently since I was very fortunate to have premium access over there. So I was able to use that. I really want to ask this, and this is a question specifically for Alisa, that I want to understand that how do you essentially think of scaling this across, right? What are those strategies? How are you reaching out to your potential customers? And deep down, and this the question that I would want to kind of ask, the second level question is, what is the vision for this? Because one of the things that we have realized, and this is something that people keep asking me again and again in a lot of places, how does AI affect the landscape of product management in terms of their quality of work, what they're shipping across? Does it help in discovery? Does it do something else? So I think that's the deeper question, which I would essentially would want to ask both of you. But starting off with Alisa, how do you think about growth of ChatPRD, and what essentially is the ideal persona for you? And why do you essentially want to scale this across, and how does it help product managers?
Yeah. My strategy for growing PRD is, like Clara was doing such a phenomenal job of growing it on her own. My job is to not get in her way and just essentially step on the gas for all the things Clara was already doing. So in a way, my job is kind of easy because already ChatPRD has grown tremendously just in the last few months even. And Claire is she's very authentic in her posts and what she shares online, which I think draws a lot of people in. She's also done a great job of, speaking with Lenny and with Akash and recently at Config, right? Like her voice is getting out there to a lot of people. And so my role is to just expand that even further. So make sure that people are seeing all that information in their weekly emails that they get from ChatPRD, that we're sharing everything on socials. Claire and I work together to build a community where we're sharing all this information and increasing the visibility of the product. And so, just trying to get the visibility out there has been one of my big goals. And then we really value just being extremely close with our customers. So we talk with our customers constantly in our community. I talk with them all day in support chats and via emails. And that informs so much of what we build. And I think, people give ideas and then they see those ideas actually get built, and that draws them in even more. And Claire is just brilliant at doing a lot of lean experimentation too in the product. So, we'll get insights from someone about an idea, something that should be built, and she'll do like a very quick lean experiment in the product to see if people are interested in it. We get feedback on it, we iterate on it. And it becomes something that's incredibly valuable. So yeah, my role in growth is to get out of the way and just amplify everything that's already been done. I know the second part of your question was how we see this impacting product managers too.
Yeah.
I'll speak to it lightly. I know, Claire, I want to hear your take on the vision and AI for product managers. But in my perspective, product managers have a lot of responsibilities on their plate. I think with AI, a lot of the tasks where product managers have to be heads down, writing, almost in focus mode, but you can just be playing music, kind of thoughtlessly writing things down. I think that's a lot of where AI will come in and kind of take on that responsibility. You look at ChatPRD and you can get phenomenal drafts of documents, not just PRDs now, but so many different types of product documents. And you don't have to spend 2 hours heads down just creating a draft, right? Same with writing tickets or something like that, or release notes, right? Those are the types of things that I think AI will really help with. But that's not the whole job of a product manager. There's so much that goes into just thinking of the product ideas, collaborating with your partners in the organization, ingesting information from different parts of the market or different parts of the company, evangelizing your idea, convincing people to buy into it, and then just being scrappy, doing what it takes to get things over the finish line. Product managers have to get creative. They have to understand people, know what motivates people. And those are things that I think it's a little bit harder for AI to replace inherently. Claire, I want your take.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, what I think is that I just gave a talk at Config on this topic, somewhat what I think about the future of product management. You can watch it. It's on YouTube on the Config channel. And really, I see basically a couple things. One, product managers are just going to be asked to do more. Everybody's going to be asked to do more. Product managers are going to be asked to do more. And yesterday I was looking at our top ChatPRD users. And given this product has only been live for about 6 months. And I was looking at our top user who only signed up at the end of April, so 3 months. They made 193 PRDs.
Wow.
So, like, if you can define 193 features, whether small, whether big, I have 297, but I do a lot of test ones. Alisa, you're not quite up on. You're actually number 10 on the leaderboard, so you're getting there, but not quite. But 200 product thoughts, product ideas, product definition in 3 months. Think how much innovation that can generate, and how much broader and bigger your thinking can get as a product manager when you have this co-pilot. So I really think just the tool set is changing and the toolkit is changing. And so the expectations are changing. And so part of the reason why, honestly, the reason why I built ChatPRD is, as I said in my talk, I'd rather disrupt myself than be disrupted. I would rather be on the bleeding edge of what it's like to be an AI-enabled product manager, AI-enabled product leader, understand how these tools can accelerate things, understand how these tools can change things, and then build organizations or careers around this net new framework, then be caught on my heels one day when, job postings go away and they say, actually, you're not a chief people officer of people, you're a chief people officer of a bunch of agents. How do you do that? I'm like, I know how to do that. So I do think like the pace is changing, the tool set's changing. And what I really, I'm an optimist. What I really think is this is like a tool, right? Yeah. I don't know. I'm old enough to know, like, we didn't used to have Slack and we still got stuff done as companies.
Yeah.
Like we did. And, I didn't used to have these like no code, low code tools, and we still built stuff. And so I just think even though the toolkit changes and the ergonomics of how you work changes, doesn't mean you can't add fundamental value to the pursuit of creativity and business outcomes. And so I really think this can be a platform to accelerate impact. And that's how I think about it. And you see this in sort of industry reports too. Companies are embracing AI not to get rid of headcount, but actually to maximize the throughput of that investment. And so, I just think about what in the stack of ChatPRD could we build to make that possible. And then the other thing that I don't think folks give enough attention to is not every team is lucky enough to have as many product managers as they need, or product manager at all. Like we work with a lot of founders who have engineers on their team, and the founder's trying to be the product manager and they've never done it before. Or we have engineers that work on teams that don't have PMs. For example, I have a couple teams at my company at LaunchDarkly, like infrastructure teams, right? Like they don't have a product manager, but they have a roadmap and they've got stuff they got to get done, and it has to be mapped to customer needs, and they need a way to articulate that. This is an on-demand way to give teams the things and the structure that they need where they might not have the skills themselves.
That's so interesting to hear. I really want to ask you one last question before I really move to the students. They are eagerly waiting to talk to you. This one question. Great. How does a person, like today I'm a PM and I see AI disrupting a lot of things. And I think the deeper question which I want to ask is, India is the third largest startup ecosystem in the world now. There's a lot of funding that's coming into new products, ambiguous problems. And these are very intrinsic, local, geographical problems, which are very different from problems in the West and other places, right? So when somebody makes a choice, right? For example, there are people who work at Oracle and other places. And if they have to make a choice to join a startup, which is an ambiguous problem, right? Or which is an ambiguous where you don't necessarily know this good product market fit, or they have early signs of product market fit. How do you even make those choices, right? How do you make those career choices in general, right? And in your career where you have essentially been in a 0 to 1 stage, then looked across companies, how did you make your choices? And were you always right in making those choices? That this is a choice
no, maybe I've never been right. Who knows? I'm still sweating away making side hustles. So I'm not relaxing on an island yet. So have I nailed it exactly? No. This is what I will say. One, look, the hiring market's hard right now. So I'm going to give general advice, and I also want to give the specific advice. Like, a job is a job is a job. Like, you need a job, take the job. Like, I think people get really precious about, oh, well, this look good on my career or bad, but good on my resume or bad on my resume. I need a job now. This isn't like the sexiest company in the world, or it's not AI, but like, look, a job is a job is a job. There are many people out there right now that are unemployed. And I'm just incredibly empathetic to it. And so I just want to take, like, again, all the ego out of it. Like, take the job you can get. If you have options, you're really, really lucky. So then just take this advice after this. So I've worked at every stage company. I have been a founder. I have been employee number 13. I have been at growth stage companies. I have been at a publicly traded multinational global company. I have a side hustle that's like, a second company. Like, I've worked at every stage except for Fang. I just don't know if they would know what to do with me. And so what I would say is there is just no learning like you're going to get at a startup. At a startup, you get to just go very broad and very deep in incredibly flexible ways. In fact, I would say, like, even working at something like ChatPRD, you just get a breadth of exposure and a lot of leniency to try things in a place that you at larger organizations you really don't get. There's just no learning like a startup. I think everybody should do it in their career. It's really, really great. But in terms of picking places, what I say is, whenever you take a job, do not optimize for the job you're taking. Optimize for the job you want next. So, like, I'm very clear. Every time I start a job, basically the first discussion I have with my boss is what the next job is going to be. So when I got acquired into Optimizely as like VP of product, I sat down with my boss, the CEO, and I said, "You're going to make me chief product officer someday. We're just going to figure out how I'm going to get there." And, like, 2-3 years later, I was there. It was very clear that I was taking this VP job, not to be VP forever, but VP job because I wanted the step to chief product officer. And then when I came to LaunchDarkly, I sat with my boss and he was like, "Why are you taking this job?" I was like, "I'm taking this job because next time I'm going to have your job and I'm going to be a CEO." Like, very, very clear. So the things that I want to spend time on are board management. The things I want to spend time are sales. And so I always say, like, optimize for the next job you want. So if the next job you want is a director at a startup, you probably go to a startup. If you want to go on the Fang path, like, go look at the backgrounds of people that take that path and map it out. And I think you have to be, the further you get in your career, the more intentional you have to get about your brand of hiring, right? It's harder and harder with more years of experience. Lisa, you can speak to this. It's just harder to avoid specialization in some way, whether that's level specialization, subject matter expertise specialization. Like, you've got to be known for something so you can differentiate in a job market. I am like, if you ask any recruiter in the Valley, what does Claire want? They're like, late stage, dev tools. She'll only take a job that combines product and engineering. Like, don't put her in front of Fang. Don't put her in front of a Series B company. Like, Claire is technical products that span product and engineering at the growth stage. It's what I'm good at. And so, like, that may not be it for you, but whatever that thing is for you, if you start repeating it, you're going to find the right jobs for you.
Awesome.
And that doesn't mean you can't change, but, like, it just means that you have a direction you're going.
That's such an interesting advice. I think one of the things which I have realized over my last 9 years of whatever working in consumer products is that people generally make switches based on interest, but I think the depth of a craft essentially gets when you become really resourceful at what you learn, and you essentially become very good at looking at things which probably aren't very obvious to other people. And it comes with you being consistently doing DX, and those improvements in general then make a very good product. But that's such a nice advice. So what I would do next is that people can start raising their hands. I would recommend people who have already started, who have essentially reached out to me to essentially answer. I'll just bring Mitali. So Claire, Mitali is joining us from Germany. So she is a product owner based out of Germany. So she would love to ask a question. Mitali, over to you. Please go for it. Yes.
Hi, thank you, Sean Bhaiya. Thank you, Claire and Alisa, for being here, sharing so much with us. I think I have learned so much. My question is, given that females in their personal lives are curious, as Claire said, right? They are skilled operators in managing home and office. They want to know everything. They are empathetic. They want to help everyone. They are visionary because we always want to plan long term, right? So we have some essential traits of a product manager. Yet in the industry, if we see the male is to female ratio is 2:1, and it could be even higher. And at the C-level executives, there are only 10% of the females in Fortune 500. So my question is, why the growth is so slow in this area, and what can be done to have more women in product management and at C-level as well?
I love that you asked this question. I really appreciate it. People are afraid to ask me this question. I'm like, no, ask me this question. I have opinions. I spoke to it a little bit on my podcast with Lenny's. I actually asked him to bring it up because I think it's just such an important thing that I can speak to. So as you said, the numbers are the numbers are the numbers. There is no way you can look at the numbers and say that there is equitable representation of talent in the market. It is worse for software engineering. It is worse for technical leaders. So like I can name maybe on both hands the number of like female CTOs of like my level that exist in kind of our stage. It just like doesn't exist. And then it is abysmal, depressingly so, in venture capital and venture funded startups. So women-led companies only get like less than 2% of venture funding. And I fought for a little slice of that 2% 10 years ago. And I will tell you, I experienced things that like people think are made up. I experienced them. So the numbers are the numbers are the numbers. What do we think we can do to change it? And I speak to this in my podcast with Lenny. I think there's, I started with this, get curious. Like asking the question actually really matters. What is happening here? Why is this happening? Coming from it from a curiosity perspective as opposed to an animosity perspective is just a much more constructive thing. I think there are challenges all along the pipeline. I myself opted out of computer science school because I walked into computer science school and saw 0 people that looked like me and said, not for me, even though I'm like, as evidenced by my entire career, a very technical person. So there's representation and just being able to see yourself in a role, which is really important, which is why I try to make the effort to be publicly visible. There are the evaluation and reward mechanisms, like incentives are everything. And women are just not punished or are just not rewarded and are punished differently for the same behaviors. It's like well studied. We just have to accept that it is what it is. So we just need to be aware of what the dynamics that happen in these situations. And then, the other thing is like, candidly, there is some control women can take in this. I have never been afraid to ask for promotion. I have never been afraid to say, as you all hear, like, I want to be in a leadership role. How do I get there? And I will tell you as a leader, the number of conversations I've had with women that sound like that versus men that sound like that are very different. And so what I tell people is have the conversation, be visible. And then the other thing is like, we just got to get more women like me into leadership, not because we by default hire women, but because 2 things, we're able to, in some ways, see those biases, see those dynamics in a way that people who've never experienced them firsthand can't see them. And candidly, I attract talented female leaders. Like, it is so funny. I am hiring a very senior leader right now in my organization, very senior technical leader in my organization right now. And I promise you, my pipeline is full of women who go, I want to go work for Claire. And I think if I had a peer who's hiring that same pipeline, their pipeline would look exceptionally different. And in fact, never has a woman said, I don't want to work for Claire. She's not technical enough. And I've had men say that to me. So like, there is just this like talent attraction difference that can happen as you diverse people into leadership. And I feel like you're leaving talent on the table. Like, these are exceptional people. So what I would say is like, get curious, control what you can control, and get more women into hiring positions.
Yeah. I just want to add on to that. Like, the reason I feel like I was so attracted to ChatPRD, and I basically went to Claire and was like, how can I work for you? Is because I was like, oh my gosh, Claire is this female leader that I haven't had the chance to work for before. She's a mom. I'm a mom. Like, I saw so much of who I wanted to be in Claire. And so I think getting women in these leadership positions is incredibly important. And I also think like just a human instinct is to trust and hire people who are similar to you. So as you have more women in leadership positions, I think that naturally does grow more opportunities for women too. One more thing is, like, I think finding female mentors is super helpful. If you're looking to grow in your career, just finding people who have done it and gotten to the point that you want to get to, and learning, like, hey, what did you do differently? Or like, what were things that maybe felt uncomfortable for you that you think like maybe men do more comfortably, right? Like, just learning from them, I think, is so valuable.
Wow, that's.
Thank you.
I think
Wow.
I just wanted to ask one quick thing. That isn't being a mom a superpower? Doesn't it teach you a lot of things about how to be generally be empathetic and how to handle difficult situations? That is such an amazing thing to say. I would definitely would want to bring Garima on the screen. Garima, I'm adding you across. Garima, over to you. Please go for it. Yes.
Hi, Alisa. First of all, thank you for coming and taking out time and sharing your journey and experiences. So I have a question for you, Claire. You are a two-time founder. I would really want to understand how to build the first version of the product. At the time, PMs don't have much customer feedback or usage to bank on. What practices to follow to create a customer feedback loop for effective product iteration? Ultimately reaching the product market fit in the most optimum time frame. And also, in general, I would like to know the tips you have for women in product, especially for the ones that return after the break, like maternity or sabbatical for a childcare or something like that.
Yep. Okay. So I have very strong feelings about product market fit, and they have just been made stronger by my experience with ChatPRD. Number one thing, as soon as you can get something in front of customers, get them in front of customers. And as soon as you can not ask, would you pay for this, but get money from customers, get money from customers. And so I'll tell the story of how I started founded my first startup, which was called Experiment Engine. And it was this idea that people weren't doing as much A/B testing as they could be. And so if you could basically like buy A/B tests for your company, you would run a lot more. And so they would become like fully designed and fully implemented and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't build the product. I literally put like a landing page up with a Stripe credit card on it. And I said, if you give me $5, I will build this. And somebody gave me $5, and then somebody gave me $15. And then I emailed them. It was like, it sounds like you need an A/B test. Like, I'll log into your Optimizely for you and make it. So I just really think like PMs underestimate the commercial aspect of product market fit. And the true test for me is like not somebody saying they will give you money, but somebody literally throwing dollars around. We think about this also in larger companies. We think about incubating products. And one of the first things we do when we're incubating a product idea is, we sort of spec out the idea and do a customer discovery, but we call customers and we say, would you pay $10,000 to be a design partner on this product? And if the answer is yes, you got something there, and then you can customer fund it. So I do think there's this these commercial instincts that, especially in B2B, I think you need to think about. But generally, you have to build less than you think you'd need to. Like, you can have early product market fit with a Google form. You can have early product market fit with a service. ChatPRD was literally a free GPT on the GPT store. And it was just shocking to me how many people used it. And then it was a landing page, and it was shocking to me how many people signed up. And so I think you can really step your way in. And then the other thing is, I'll say about product market fit it is almost always problem space and never just one feature. And what I mean by it's always problem space, never just one feature is, for a very long time, ChatPRD was not feature rich. It was a chat through which you can make PRDs. But it had product market fit because creating PRDs was a problem people cared about. And if people did not care about that problem, no feature, could you upload this or could you customize that was going to solve fundamentally the problem did not matter. And so, and the reason I knew the problem mattered is people were angry when it was broken. That's how I knew it was actually a problem. When people leave you alone when it's broken, Lisa's like laughing. People leave you alone when it's broken, it's not a big problem. But people are like, I can't log in. This is a little slow. Like, I need this today. That is product market fit. So I just think what I would say is get things to customers as soon as possible. try to commercialize it as soon as possible, and don't get trapped in this thinking of like, if I just have this feature, it will suddenly take off, and really anchor yourself on, am I actually solving a problem people care about? And then generally, just general advice for women and stuff I haven't covered. And you asked about mat leave and things like that. I just, like, I think you need to be unapologetic about being a mom and being a woman. I show up very authentically to all situations. I try to set that example. In fact, when we started the question answer, there were little fingers knocking on the door that I was just pretending to ignore. Kids sit with me on my lap. They show up. At the end of the day, it has nothing to do with my competency. Maybe it makes me more competent because I'm up at 5:30 in the morning doing work. But I just say, like, the right cultures will allow you to be authentic and allow you to be your full self at work, which is like very, very competent, and also, has family, has life.
Awesome. Super amazing. Yeah. I'll bring Nadisha on board. Nadisha, over to you, please. Nadisha is joining us from Ireland, by the way. Yes. So,
Thanks so much, Shravan. Very nice to meet you, Alisa and Claire. It's been a pleasure listening to you. Thanks for sharing such valuable insights. I have a very specific question, but and it's mainly for Alisa, but Claire, if you would want to join, please do. I saw one of your videos on your YouTube channel where you talked about product marketing manager. I actually have worked as a marketing professional, so it took my interest. In that video, you explained the responsibilities of a product marketing manager, and you mentioned that the person should do a bit of gap analysis and competitor analysis, possibly because to have a good marketing plan or a marketing campaign. My question is, how is it any different from what a product manager would do? Because the product marketing manager would also be in touch with the product manager. So is there a difference? Is there an overlap, or is there a difference in what a product marketing manager is doing and then what a product manager would have done prior to working on the product or feature?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, in my experience, the best features and products I've worked on as a product manager, I've been attached at the hip with my product marketing manager counterpart. A lot of the competitive analyses and market analyses and customer insights, we're both involved in it. We both understand it inherently. We know exactly what's going on with our competitors, what features they have, why maybe we have some lost deals to competitors, right? Like, they really understand the problems that we're solving with each feature. They're a little bit less involved with, collaboration with the engineering team and maybe designing the specific specs of a feature, I'd say. But there's certainly overlap there. And as soon as the feature gets to a place where you're starting to think about, all right, here's how we want to launch it, here's when we think it'll be ready. I mean, the product marketing manager jumps right back in and is intimately involved. And because they understand why a feature is being built, and because they understand exactly what the competition has and what the market is asking for, they can craft a really, really good message when the feature goes live. And they can help inform, I think this is a really strong way for us to release it. I actually recommend, a lot of folks are really interested in product management, but don't have much of an interest in more of the technical aspects of the job. And I think for those individuals, product marketing could be a really compelling career path to look into, because it's always helpful to understand technology at some level if you're working at a tech company. But with product marketing, you still do so much of that. You get so many of the insights from the market and from users and have to really understand why features are being built, but you just spend a little bit less time working day to day with the actual engineering teams. I hope that answers your question.
Sure, it does. Thanks so much, Alisa.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Quickly bring Nikhil to the spotlight. Nikhil, over to you, please. Great.
Hi, there. Hi, Alisa. Thanks a lot for taking the time, and talking to us. It's great hearing it from you. Working in the industry from 2 decades, you've done so many different things as going through your profile. I wanted to speak to you mainly about the talk that you gave in the Figma config just a few days ago, right? You spoke about many different aspects, but those top 3 ones, the art of saying yes when we are hardwired and trained to say no as PMs, then building ourselves as super ICs, and then the third one where it is about thinking big and taking those risks, even when your quarterly goals may or may not align with those things. So the third one is where I want to try to ask you to dig deeper in your own memories and probably share with us if you have any instance where you took that risk, you went big, and it didn't go as anticipated, and how would you say you manage your teams, just because we can learn how to build resilient teams and how to really behave in these situations so that we can continue to go on and build on top of that.
Yeah, so I love this idea of resilient teams. I always say that I try to build teams that are resilient by nature. The reality is, I think a lot of the bad behavior or suboptimal behavior in product organizations come from risk aversion. So they come from a desire for certainty and a desire for outcomes in what is like just by nature an uncertain system. As I say, we're all humans working with other humans to make internet that makes humans do things. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff along that chain that can break that we don't have any control over. And so you can be principled in your approach, you can be data driven, you can be intellectually honest, you can be creative. And at the end of the day, sometimes you just ship a dud. And I think my experience having done so much experimentation, it's really like the ultimate ego buster, which is I wasn't right all the time. In fact, I wasn't right a lot. And I realized getting right more and more. So integrating those learnings and figuring out, okay, what did I get wrong and how can I just is very important. But at the end of the day, I'm just like, I'm not always going to be right. And I cannot let not always being right paralyze me, because when I am right, I'm really right. And so I think healthy cultures are ones in which failure is a learning exercise, and it happens infrequently, but you're totally fine with it. And so just like a specific example on this one is we did a couple pretty big launches. So it was before I was here, a couple pretty big launches last November at LaunchDarkly, and some are great, and some customers are like, they're okay. They don't solve a big enough problem for me. And product managers want to dig and like, well, we ship this thing, so it's just one more feature. I bet I can make it work. And at the end of the day, there's an opportunity cost to that. So I think thinking about things as opportunity costs versus like sunk cost fallacy, where you're like, I built this thing, so I've got to make it great. Do you? Or you built this thing, it wasn't great. I learned from it. I can take that same effort trying to make that thing great and try to ship something that's great moving forward. And so I think actually being okay with saying we tried something and it didn't work and we can move on, and it's not a failure of the team and we want to learn from it and we're still going to try something new next time. And then again, as I said, incentives are everything. If you're firing people because they're shipping like every now and then something that doesn't quite work, that just doesn't create that culture. So you got to think about incentives and what you reward. But I do think placing bets is the job of the product manager. And if you start to talk about them as bets, and sometimes bets play out and sometimes they don't, but you still have to place bets, I think you can get the right culture going.
Thanks for those thoughts.
Makes sense. I'll quickly call Varun. Claire and Alisa, I'll take 10 more minutes of your time. Just 10 more minutes.
I have kids upstairs, so probably like 5 more minutes of my time.
Awesome.
Great, thanks.
I'll quickly call Varun. I'm putting you to the spotlight. Can you switch on your camera? So Varun works for Google. He's joining us from SF. Yeah. Yes. Varun, over to you. Yes.
Thank you, Sean. Hey, Claire and Alisa, firstly, few acknowledgements. Thank you so much for sharing such great insights. Also, I completely appreciate, I'm a new dad, and I completely appreciate how a mother's responsibility go up. My wife is a software engineer and she balances everything brilliantly. So can't agree more with Sean that women are superwomen. My question is just because you have done so much different things, you've worked at startups, you've worked at mid-sized companies, you've started your own things. What skill set what skill set a founder has to focus more on versus a ICPM working in some other company to be successful at what they are doing? Or do you think all the skills are pretty much the same, only the intensity or the degree changes?
Oh, no, I think it's totally different. I think you need The number one skill set I actually think you need across both of them is emotional resiliency. You just need it in spades when you're a product manager or when you're a founder. The number one thing that kills startups, in my mind, is just founders running out of steam. You run out of steam before you run out of money, usually, although both can happen. And so I do think the founder role requires a tremendous amount of emotional resiliency. It is not it's like fun in a lot of ways, high highs and low lows, like the amplitude is very high. Whereas in a product role or an operator role, you're sort of operating in this amplitude. Like you're always going to get your salary and your upside is capped. With startups, like you might not get your salary and the upside is sort of hypothetically unbounded. And so the highs are high, the lows. I also think as a founder, you are playing a much more generalist role than you are as a product manager or an operator. Any one day you could be talking to customers or figuring out your payroll or talking with your board or doing any of those things. That being said, being a founder does build along many of the skills that you want out of a great PM. So I think they're very different. I actually think being a PM in a large company is very, very different than being a PM in a startup or a growth stage company. Just like what you're asked to do are different. It was really, really funny. I forget who we were talking to, Akash maybe. And I was like, do things fast. And he was like, if you're at Google and do things fast, you'll get fired. And I was like, do things fast anyway. So that even just explains the spectrum of how companies operate and what you expect to be successful.
Awesome. So in the interest of time, I'll take one last question because Claire is on a watch here. So what I would do is I will bring Kevin across, and rest of the people who have questions, I'll forward it to Alisa. She'll take time and essentially respond back. But Kevin, over to you. Kevin worked for Salesforce, by the way. So Kevin, over to you. Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Alisa. Hi, Claire. Thank you so much for the session. I personally had a lot of takeaways. I, in fact, really admire how real you are, Claire, like just the way you answer questions. So I think the question is more for you, Claire. So I work in a team at Salesforce. It was there initially in my tenure at Amazon as well. But in Salesforce, I work in a CI/CD DevOps team, which is somewhat similar to what LaunchDarkly does. So one of the problems that I face right now, I have to set the product roadmap for every particular tech stack that is out there. So first question would be, I just read your comment. So my first question would be, how do you stay on top of the tech stacks which are there? Like what actually needs to be presented? And second, like right now, there's abundance of tools everywhere. Like, for example, we were just building a code reviewer, a PR reviewer, which basically uses AI. And there were literally like 10, 15 options for something which has just come into the limelight right now. So how would you stay on top of first the tech stack, which is important, so a lot of the times, your Java is a little outdated as compared to your current tools, which are there, current languages, which are there. So one is that. And secondly, I'm sorry if LaunchDarkly uses Java. That was not my intention.
No. I was typing my Java is outdated. My Java is not good. Mine. So how do I stay up to date? Yeah, this is really important. I mean, people don't talk about this as much with me, but I do lead the engineering organization at LaunchDarkly. So I care for both sides. And then LaunchDarkly itself is a technical product. So it is important for me to understand the ecosystem, particularly around CI/CD, software development, net new products, like the Next.js sort of like server rendering ecosystem is like very interesting because it introduces some challenges in front end work, some opportunities in front end work. So that ecosystem is changing a lot. So the thing that keeps me current is I build stuff, and I don't just build stuff relevant to my work. I just I find problems to solve for myself or for others, and I build things, and that allows me to stay relevant. And so one of the reasons I love working at LaunchDarkly, love it, like a product I can actually use outside of work in the ecosystem of other things. So one of the side benefits of ChatPRD is I'm installing, it's in Next, it's deployed on Vercel, it uses LaunchDarkly, it uses like all these sort of like best in class DevOps tools. And what that allows me to do is have a place that's sort of disconnected from work where I can start to understand not where things are now, but where they might go in the future and how an end software engineer might think about it. So I really think that building is one of the best learning tools for engineers, product managers, et cetera. And you're just limited if you're only building for work. So I think it's really important. I encourage it. I do it myself to find things that are maybe not like squarely in your day-to-day work to do. And even if they're work related. So I was talking to an SVP of engineering yesterday, and he says he gives every engineer on his team the goal to ship one piece of technology that has nothing to do with the product, that has to do with the team. So whether it's like this PR reviewer or whatever it might be, and that can give you a way to like kind of get out of the day-to-day and learn something new.
Awesome. Amazing. So before we kind of move across, we have this ritual of taking a photo, which essentially goes on the internet, right? So at the count of 3, I would say just cheese, and everybody can like do like this. 1, 2, 3, say cheese. Very cool. Very cool.
Very cool.
The last thing that I want to say, once again, Claire and Alisa, this is super, super. Thank you very much for doing this. I think everybody took so much value from this. I think this is something that the Indian startup ecosystem would want to learn. We are still in the nascent phases of building good product culture, good product leaders, and conversations with leaders like you definitely help. And trust me, there are a lot of people who want to get into product and good founder level roles, and they want to learn from them. Thank you very much for your time. And what I'll do next is I'll share this recording with you also so that you can host. And simultaneously, it'll be the next steps. I will share it with Alisa. Thank you very much once again.
Great. Thank you all. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.